Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of MACAE, the Michigan Adult Community and Alternative Education Association's Member Profile Series. I'm Patrick Brown, Executive Director. Just a reminder that you can watch any of our recordings on our website at www.macae.org and on any of our social media pages at MACAE Today, that's MACAE Today, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we started this video series about 6 months ago to spotlight the members within our association. So I am so excited to be here today with the one and only, I say, Kimberly Bell. Thanks for being here, Kim.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
So Kim is a longtime familiar face to many in the MACAE Association. And I'll let her share her story in just a minute. But Kim is retired and is on a beach somewhere, but it doesn't look like she's on a beach somewhere. It actually looks like she's in a classroom. Is that right, Kim?
That is. I retired December of 2021. And yes, I got recruited back into my passion, and I am now at Comstock Campus Adult Education.
Well, we're very happy to have you, and I know they are very happy to have you as well. So this interview, the reason why we started this profile series was to really spotlight the professionalism of our members, Kim. And you have been a longtime MACAE member and a longtime professional in this field. Stepped aside, retired, now you're back in it. And I just thought you'd be the perfect candidate to interview and to get your perspective on the longevity within your career, but also the longevity of MACAE and the different facets of it and how it's been helpful to you throughout your career. But let's start with you at the very beginning. Tell us a little bit about your history, your education experience, and how you got started in this wonderful world of adult and community and alternative education.
Okay, so just for the record, I think I have been a member of MACAE since 1986.
Wow.
And yeah, and so my history starts with, not much different than our students. My parents moved to another state when I was 16, and me and my big britches, I'll say, said, hey, I'm really not sure I would like to go. So how can we figure this out? And had some intelligent arguments, I guess. So my parents allowed me to stay here, and I worked while I went to school. And one of the first places I got a job was at Kalamazoo Adult Education, and I was co-op secretary, which is kind of like education for employment without some of the training I had already done in high school. And I fell in love, okay, because there is nothing better than making somebody else feel good, happy, meet their needs. And adult education allowed me to do that. So I stayed and grew academically myself, and then took on more responsibilities until eventually I became the leader of adult education. So I started at the very bottom and then worked my way up to the top within that department.
Wow, that's pretty remarkable. And tell us a little bit more about what are the different positions that you've held within not only your program time at Kalamazoo, but now you mentioned that you're at Comstock. So we'd like to hear about that experience as well. But tell us a little bit about you started in the co-op position, then obviously transitioned to part-time or full-time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I started out as a co-op student, and I went to Loyal Oaks High School, and we had some word processing equipment and new things. So my skills were pretty up to date and new, and they saw value in that. And rather than hire a co-op student the following year, I got to go back and work nights part-time. So I worked at an elevator company during the day, and then I worked at Kalamazoo Adult Education, just trying to pay rent like a lot of people. And then a full-time clerical position became open, and I applied for it, and I got that position. And then I believe that was as the DHS secretary. So that was in the old days before computerized attendance. So I would transfer all the teachers' records onto their participants' worksheets and then mail those out to the caseworkers. It really was a 40-hour-a-week job. You know, it's amazing how times have changed with the electronics and software that we have to do that. And then let's see, I kept moving up the clerical, I don't know, scale or roles, and went to community college, got a degree, went to the community college, got another degree, then got my BA, and then my education leadership. And you know, it wasn't the easy route. It was alternative in its approach, and I think that's how I could relate and understand the students better. And then from that, I got to be the postgraduate opportunities person for our program, which meant I did taxes, I did financial aid or Pell Grant applications, helped with resumes, whatever their goal was after graduation, I helped them do that. And so I did that 3-4 years, and I really enjoyed that job. That was a lot of fun. And then became the supervisor of the program. And when Doug Wood, also a former MACAE member, retired,
yes,
yes, I took on those roles. So, you know, you've probably heard it takes a leader to build, or a great leader builds more leaders, and that was Doug Wood's model. And I was fortunate to be a part of that team, and that's what he did. And so I'm a piece of his work, I guess, you know, and he gave me opportunities. So did the other people I worked for, but especially him.
And when did you become the director there? Do you remember?
I do, but now I don't know what to think about this date, but my date of hire was 9/11/2001.
Wow.
So my first morning in my new role was watching the World's Trade Center collapse. It was a sad day, but in you know, in my personal life, it was a good day. But that was something that will always stick in my head.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that part of your story. That, you
Yeah.
know, and knowing you in this work, Kim, and hearing these parts of your story, that even me knowing you, and we've had lots of conversations, but even things in your story that I hadn't heard before, and even just what you just shared, I think there's a strand or a thread to me of uh, resiliency and adaptability that you carry forward. And I think that's very true. You were harking on uh, when you first started your career working with students transitioning, and that's, if that isn't the hot topic right now about how to help adults transition to the next phase of their life or education or career success, I mean, that's just the name of the game right now. That's kind of interesting to see the pendulum kind of swing back and forward, isn't
And, you know, I did that back in 98, 99. I'm not exactly sure, but in the late 90s, I did that role. And I think that became kind of a state model for that work. Some people may love it, some people may not, but you know, it is beneficial to the learners. A lot of them want to be successful, but they don't know what the next step is, and that's scary, right?
it? Yeah. What's your current role? Tell us what you're doing now. Obviously, retirement, you weren't quite ready for it, maybe.
No, and you know, honestly, Patrick, I said that I wasn't going to do this anymore. You know, I had the feel goods. I went out feeling like I was on top, and then you know, there was a teacher shortage, and so right here in our own community, Jay Birchmeyer, who is actually the director principal of our program, or Compass High School, which we fall under, and he needed help. And so I used to mentor him for the state a long time ago. He really didn't need my help, but I was assigned to him, and he did reference me a couple times, but again, not very often. And he asked me to help him out. So I did, and I'm working part-time but I'm doing all the intake, enrollment, pre-test, post-test, data entry, and facilitating learning, which most of it is done online. I have people coming in anywhere from 1 to 6 people, but mostly it's just 1 or 2 people that I'm working with in person, and the rest is done online. So out of 8 high school completion students, I've had 5 graduates so far. And we've had several people, I think we're up to almost 30 GED tests. And then we're doing some ABE too. So really, I feel like I'm all of my former program wrapped into one person.
Absolutely. Certainly, you have enough qualifications to be in that role. That's certainly for
Well,
sure.
yeah, and been a part of all those different tasks in my old um, work. So it makes it easier to transition here.
Speaking of that, what are some things throughout your career that stand out to you that you've been a part of? You have throughout your career served on various task forces, you've helped be leading many different initiatives, you've been a part of advocating on behalf of MACAE. We just had our advocacy day this
Yes.
last week, and you attended that and your new role and supported us in that space. So, what are some things that stick out over the course of your career? You mentioned, people like Doug Wood, but what are some things that you're really proud of being a part of?
Okay, proud of being a part of, because I've seen a lot. I've seen the reduction in funding and some things like that. I'm really proud of the post graduate transition work we've done. I'm still trying to do that here. I am proud of the advocacy, the numbers of individuals who believe in adult education, the districts that still support it. The fact that legislators and community partners and members have determined the importance and worth of adult education, and they want to help and assist and do that good work in collaboration of delivering services. And those are, I guess, Patrick, the best and most proud thing I can offer you is watching an individual walk across the stage who didn't think they ever would, and the joy that they feel and the joy that you share with them. That's the proudest.
And I know that I've been with you out in the community when those folks come up to you years later, even, and thank you and acknowledge you, or your staff or your colleagues that helped them along the way. I've seen that firsthand. We've gone to lunch after a PD together, various things like that, and I've experienced that. So that's very powerful, I think, when you have that and you're living, working with community and be able to provide those services, and the people that you serve then continue to live, work, and invest their time in that community as well. Those are little points of pride as your colleague and your friend that I always take stock of and appreciate. Um,
Well, thank
asking
you.
you, no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you because I had forgotten some of those details. So that was nice of you to remember and share.
Of the projects, you've been on, if there was a task force, you probably have served on it, right? I mean, you have
That's
served
true.
in various roles.
And I did miss that in your earlier comment. Yeah, I have been a part of the data task force, the transformation task force. I've been on various work groups through MACAE, adult education, ABE. Um, there's so many, I just can't even name them all. And then I've been on work groups, like I was on the Literacy Council Board who selected Michael Evans as the director. And let's see, Even Start. Does anybody remember Even Start? So I would have to get out my resume to list the list of, but at one point in time, I was literally on 14 boards or work groups all at the same time. Thankfully, they didn't meet, some only were a couple times a year, but that's how important collaboration is and how much service is important to not only these other agencies, but to myself.
I bring those up, Kim, because I'd like to highlight, especially in your career, the depth and the breadth of what you bring as a professional to the field and to our organization. I mean, you just listed a handful of really multi-year, multifaceted, in-depth projects that have marked the evolution of our programming over time, whether that's turned into something that uh, turned into like a practical tool that was created, or whether that has impacted policy or even legislation. I mean, you and others in this space have been a part of moving that forward. And I think sometimes in our careers and in our profiles, we don't really take time to say, wow, I was really a part of these different things that actually did move things forward. When you're in it, you don't really take time to step away from that and think about that or consider those impacts. And I just wanted to highlight that because that's not insignificant.
Thank you. And what is another point of pride from earlier is that our program got a lot of recognition. Whether it was an honorary mention for Secretary of the Year or Change Agent or Teacher of the Year. We had almost every year someone receiving some recognition, and that's powerful when you have a team that works that hard, and the culture is that great that people are willing to go above and beyond the norm, to get the work done and to achieve. It's
So
huge.
where do you see programming going forward? Where do you see the evolution of things? And I'll give you an example that you gave that we were chatting about earlier. It's just even the evolution of technology, and how our interfaces and our interaction with the clients and the learners that we deal with has changed. I mean, it used to be that we would have a classroom full of individuals, and we do, but many of them are in a virtual space. And so we may not always see them, or we see them once or twice a semester. So where do you see kind of the landscape of adult education transforming, for better or for worse, going forward?
Well, I have some concerns. I've been around the track maybe once, twice, three, four times, and so data is always an area of concern for adult educators, um, because there are certain requirements and performance measures we have to meet. But for some people, their achievement is just walking through the door and getting enrolled. That's like, if you've got anxiety that's severe, that's a huge accomplishment. You can't record that on any data, but it matters to that individual, and it matters to the person that's serving them. As time goes on, I see more of the off-campus learning, virtual, blended, flipped, whatever works best for the program. I see that working because, there's a value to be able to do your homework in your pajamas while your kids are still in bed, right? Or after you get home from work and you've worked second or third shift, but you're not ready to sleep, that's a good time for some learning, right? Whether it's a half hour or 3 hours, that's beneficial. And so we're able to reach learners in a timely manner that benefits them. And if you do it correctly, you're able to administer the help and lessons that they need, so that they're not struggling with a particular area. And I think we're still learning that, or at least I'm still learning how to do that.
I think so. I think, especially coming out of the pandemic, I think it's just everything was thrown into one bowl and shaken up. And so now, as things come out of that bowl, the lid gets lifted. We kind of have to unpack that and to see where things fit just in the natural order of life, I think, too. What worked before, was that really working? Is that the best way? Do we have the resources or the skills to do the new way, or whatever that looks like? So I want you to think about, Kim, you have had a lot of great mentors. You yourself have been a great leader and mentor to others in this space. Is there a quote, a mantra, a saying of something funny in your life? What has kept you going in the challenging times?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that because one particular phrase sticks out, and it was by a gentleman I had been at a conference Michigan Department of Ed put on in the Detroit area, and I got to attend and it was amazing. But really the thing that stuck out was this man's name was Art Berg. He has since passed away, but on his way to his wedding, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, was in a car accident and was
Mm,
a quadriplegic. And he figured out ways to be a biker and race. And his motto was, "The impossible only takes a little longer."
mm.
So no matter what your struggle is or how impossible it seems, you can get it done. You're just going to have to find the determination and the pathway to get that going.
That's
Absolutely.
extremely powerful.
Somebody's making faces at me through the window, isn't it?
I know, well, as the Call of Duty, right? The Call of Duty. We are
Right.
coming to the end of our time, so we will let you go in just a second. But thank you for sharing that wonderful quote. I just think that that's so powerful and really is very representative, I think, of the professionals that work in this field and maybe the obstacles that they encounter in just getting basic resources or access to resources to the people that they serve, but most importantly to our participants and clients that we serve that have overcome so many hurdles, like you mentioned earlier, just to arrive at our door in person or virtually enroll is in and of itself a great success. The fact that they have overcome those mental obstacles or overcome those barriers in their personal life in order to actualize or realize that they want to achieve their goals. So thank you for sharing that great quote. So last question for you, Kim. What brought you back after you were retired, you were ready to move forward? What in your heart of hearts do you think brought you back to do this work? You've certainly done your time, is what I, you certainly have put in and you've, climbed the highest pinnacles of your career and been a part of so many things. What brought you back?
You know, we're adult education right now is short resources. You've mentioned it a couple times. We're in need, and when there's a need, we should chip in and fill it. Where your passion leads you is where you should go in service and being a resource. This is mine. I like making people feel good. I like learning myself. I like teaching. So this is a really, as my former coworker Brian Wines would say, this is a really good gig, and I'm grateful to be here. And it fits my need to serve, and it fits my time schedule, and I love it. And maybe one day I'll retire again, but right now I'm hanging in there, and I love it. Can't ask for a better job.
Well, there are lots of programs in Southwest Michigan after your second retirement that you could go to. Well, thank you for your time, Kim. And thank you for the breadth, like I said, of your career and this new facet of it. I mean, your career is continues forward and is evolving really, and this is a part of that. And I just want to thank you for being a member of MACAE and all that you've contributed in our landscape. But most importantly, what you brought to the programs that you've been part of, Kalamazoo certainly, but even now Comstock and what you're bringing there every day and how you are moving forward and really working with the people in our communities that are coming for the services that they need through education and training. And you're just a really great person and a really great educator. So thank you for all that
Thank
you
you.
are. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. I enjoy it and appreciate you, Patrick. It's wonderful to be interviewed, and I'm humbled by the reach out for this interview. Thanks.
Well, we are glad that you're in your gig, and we wish you luck and continued success as we turn this corner on the rest of this program year. And we just want to thank you again, Kim Bell, for being here as our guest this week on our program. And reminder for all of you listening that you can find this recording and others MACAE profiles on our website at macae.org or on our social media at MACAE Today. So with that, we'll sign off for today, and we'll be back again very soon. Bye-bye.